So go to paper 2, May, June 2028. Numbers. All right. They said we have to read the source material carefully before answering question 1. Right, so we read the source material. Please read for me. Vietnam's population and its output are increasing. Consumers, workers, and firms are benefiting from the higher output. Some Vietnamese people are receiving more generous pensions and high wages, while some firms are earning higher profits. Vietnam's population is aging, but the country still has a relatively young labor force. Age can affect workers' flexibility, mobility, level of experience, and their knowledge of the latest technology. The Vietnamese government wants to raise the quality of its labor force by spending more on education. Vietnamese children have recently performed better in international tests than children in richer countries. Education spending can influence the percentage of the labor force working in the tertiary sector, as shown in Table 1. That's the table. Vietnam has had a budget deficit since 2008. The country's high economic growth rate and changes in the government policies will affect its budget balance in the future. The government is privatizing a number of public sector firms. It also plans to spend more on education and defense, and is likely to raise some tax rates. The regulation has increased in the number of firms, both foreign and domestically owned, in a number of markets. For instance, in 2007, there was only one Vietnamese airline. It operated only 2 routes, and the fares it charged were not affordable to most Vietnamese. Now the country has 7 airlines offering domestic and international flights. Borrowing by both households and firms increased borrowings by both households and firms increased in Vietnam between 2010 and 2017. Households borrowed mainly to purchase more consumer goods, while firms borrowed mainly to invest, that's capital goods. So go to the question now. The first question says, calculate Vietnam's GDP per head in 2017. GDP per head is the same as GDP per capita. So we need to go to the GDP and population. So the formula for GDP per head is the GDP divided by the total population. So the GDP here in 2017 is 662.4 billion. And the population is 96 million. So 662.4 divided by 96 million gives us $6,900. That's about that. Then we go to question 2. B. Identify 2 rewards. Okay, read on.
Identify 2 rewards to factors of production.
So we're talking about factors of production. We're talking about land, labor, capital, and enterprise. So the reward for land is rent income. That's one. And the reward for labor is wages or salaries. The reward for entrepreneur or enterprise is profit. The reward for capital is interest. So they said 2. So we're saying, I talked about land, which is rent income, and labor, which is wages or salaries. Okay. So go to question C.
Explain what happened to Vietnam's
foreign exchange
between 2010 and 2017.
So let's go back to the foreign exchange rate between 2010 and 2017. For the foreign exchange rate in 2010, $1 is 19,500 dong, but in 2017, $1 becomes 22,780 dong. So that means the value of the Vietnam's currency is falling. So more Vietnam's currency would be needed to buy $1.
Vietnam's currency is dong.
Dong, yeah. So more dongs are needed to get $1 now. So that means it's depreciating. Is it clear? We go to C. D.
Explain the benefits an economy may gain from having a young labor force.
When an economy is having a young labor force, one, it means that the economy, I said young workers may be more flexible, which means they will be able to switch different tasks. Young workers, they are young, so they have more flexibility. They can adapt to even technological changes. You understand? 2, they may be more productive due to age and better health condition. Is it clear? Do you get the point?
Yeah.
We go to E.
Analyze why Vietnam's budget
deficit
may decline in the future.
Yeah, they said Vietnam is having budget deficit, which means Vietnam is spending more than what it's earning. The expenditure of Vietnam is more than the revenue. That's what budget deficit means. So based on what we have, based on the analysis here, they said the country's high economic growth rate and changes in government policies will affect its budget balance in the future. So that means right now, based on the extract, Vietnam is witnessing high economic growth rate. So if Vietnam is witnessing high economic growth rate, it means output is increasing in Vietnam. And if output is increasing, Vietnam might do more exports. So doing more exports would improve the budget and the balance of payments of Vietnam. Two, the government is privatizing. They said the government is privatizing some firms here.
What is privatization?
Privatization means you are selling government-owned property or businesses to private individuals. This might be as a result of inefficiency from public sector businesses.
Okay.
You know, private sectors, their motive is profit maximization, and it might be, you know, the motive behind private sector can make them to be more efficient than the public sector. So the government is privatizing some public sector businesses, meaning efficiency will increase and output will increase. That's two. The third one, firms are borrowing to, here they said, firms are, in the last paragraph, they said, borrowing by both household and firms increased in Vietnam between 2010 to 2017. Households borrowed mainly to purchase more consumer goods. So households are borrowing to purchase more consumer goods, which means more revenue for businesses because households are buying more now. So more revenue for businesses could make them to increase their output, and increasing their output would improve the economy. And also, firms are borrowing to invest in capital goods, meaning that growth would definitely occur in that economy.
Yeah. Sure.
Is it clear?
Very clear.
So go to question F.
Analyze the relationship between government spending and education and the percentage of the labor force employed in the tertiary sector.
So according to the table 1, according to this table, we have education spending percentage of GDP and the labor force employed in the tertiary sector. When we talk about the tertiary sector, we're talking about the service sector, right? Great. So based on the relationship between education spending and labor force employed in the tertiary sector is that countries with highest spending on education has the largest number of labor force in the tertiary sector. For example, Norway. Norway have 7.4% of its GDP invested on education, and it has the highest of all in labor force employed, 78%.
Okay.
Bangladesh has the lowest GDP spent on education, Bangladesh, and it has the lowest labor force, except with the exception of Vietnam. It has the lowest labor force in tertiary sector. Is it clear? So we go to G.
Discuss whether or not an increase in competition is likely to benefit Vietnam's consumers.
Consumers. When you talk about competition, competition means the rivalry that exists between firms. Competition means what? The rivalry that exists between firms in an industry or in a market. Okay. So if competition is increasing in the economy or in the market, what happens? Well, I said an increase in competition may benefit Vietnam consumers based on the following one. Consumers may have more choices available to them. So if competition is increasing, that means consumers might be able to choose from variety of products. Two, increasing competition may allow firms to become more effective and efficient because they want to meet up with the needs of customers. If not, customers will leave them and buy from other competitors. Three, firms may have to cut down prices to attract more customers, which makes products becomes affordable for consumers, which is good for consumers. Yes or no? So that's 3. It's 3.6 marks there. We go to H.
Discuss whether or not the increase in borrowing is likely to have caused inflation in Vietnam in 2017.
An increase in borrowing might have caused inflation due to the following reason. One, an increase in borrowing will lead to higher demand for goods and services. Yes or no? So higher demand for goods and services will mean that there's increase in the aggregate demand in the economy. Increase in aggregate demand would lead to demand pull inflation. And as a result, businesses would have to increase their prices to sell for those that can afford it. Higher aggregate demand may lead to, I talked about it. And the last one there is tax rate may increase. Taxes may increase as a result of that. And if taxes increases, firms' cost of production would rise, leading to cost push inflation. Is it clear? So that's all about question 1.
Question 2.
Yes, please. Read, please.
Japan has a low immigration rate and declining population. In recent years, it has experienced deflation and a rise in child poverty. By 2017, 1 in 6 Japanese children lived in a household with less than half of the average household income. Japan operates a national minimum wage, which increased every year between 2010 and 2017. This may have affected the level of poverty in the country. A. State benefits a country may gain from immigration.
If a country is having more immigrants, well, it means that the country will be, will have large number of workforce or labor force. Do you understand? Number 2, it also increases tax revenue for government because immigrants will pay taxes. So tax revenue will increase for government of such country.
Okay.
Clear?
Very clear. We go for B.
Do you want me to give another example? It's fine.
Why not?
Okay. Also, it allows immigrants will come with skills, definitely. So that means the country would have full of workers with skills.
Yeah. B. Explain 2 consequences of deflation.
Deflation means a fall in the average price of goods and services within an economy. And the fall in price, what happens? I said deflation may lead to unemployment. A fall in price will mean that people would buy, but at a lower rate. So buying at a lower rate will reduce revenue for firms. Reducing revenue for firms might mean that firms would not need to produce more goods. So fewer goods are needed to be produced. This might mean that they have to reduce the number of workers. So deflation might lead to unemployment. 2, another consequence is that with lower prices, firms that are exporting might become internationally competitive because export goods becomes cheaper due to inflation or a fall in prices. So they might be internationally competitive. Do you understand? There's a positive consequence there, which means the country might become internationally competitive in terms of exports. But the problem about deflation is that it might lead to unemployment, as businesses will not be making more revenue. So they would need to reduce the number of workers.
Yeah. We go for C.
Okay.
Analyze why children from low-income families may have low incomes as adults.
Yeah. Children from low-income families might be having low income even when they become older. Why? 1, they may not have the financial capability to be educated, to have higher education. As a result, they won't have the opportunity to work, to get employment, to get a better paid employment. That means they're going to have low income. Do you get the point?
Just because they have a low level.
Because they are from a low income family. The family might not be able to afford high level education, which means whatever employment they get will not be a higher pay.
Yeah.
2, inability to, 2, they might be having different health issues as a result of not being able to take balanced diets.
But I don't think those are super convincing because sometimes if you don't have a really high level of education, but by the time you could, for example,
work on yourself. Doing what?
Education. Educate yourself by yourself.
The point is, based on the situation, based on economic situation.
If he's in the same major since he was young, of course he's gonna get promoted. Of course he's gonna get a promotion. He won't stay in the same place.
Yeah, but the growth would not be the same as someone with high income, someone that comes from a high income family. The point here is we should give reasons why not all those that come from a low income family would have a low income as adults.
Yeah.
We're just citing examples. We're just citing reasons why it might happen. Yeah. My family is average, but it doesn't mean that I'm earning low now.
Yeah, this is the point.
Do you understand? So, yeah. But not everybody will be this way. So why they might not be that way, that is the point.
Yeah.
So one is the family might not be able to afford higher education, which means it might not be attractive to getting a better paid job. Two, a family with low income might not be able to, eat balanced diet.
Yeah.
So not having balanced diet might cause some health issues, which they might not be able to take care of, leading to them not being fit for jobs.
Yeah.
Is it clear now?
Yeah, just for the first point. Yeah, I wasn't convinced.
What about now? Still not convinced?
Still not convinced.
Okay. When you are from a low income family, I
understand what you said.
Okay.
I get what you said, but I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
It's not a reason, because, for example, here in Libya, let's just be honest about it. Here in Libya, we have those people who works in ministries and the organizations and this stuff. They don't even have the certificate of their graduation, just because they stopped at high school and they're well employed. They don't have the full level of education.
Do you know why?
Why?
Because the employment rate in Libya is low based on the population of Libya. You can't compare Libya with a country like Nigeria, where the population is so high. So in Nigeria, getting a job might need huge certification.
Okay.
Because job is scarce. Here, job is not scarce. I remember vividly some 3-4 years ago, the minister, one of the Libyan ministers, in Siraj regime said, the Libyans that are not working are the Libyans that don't want to work.
Yeah.
Do you understand? So that means Libya is not suffering for unemployment. Libya has voluntary unemployment rates. Listen, there is different unemployment, but the kind of unemployment in Libya is called voluntary unemployment, meaning people are out of job because they don't want to work. So it's different from Nigeria that might be suffering from structural unemployment. Okay. Do you get the point here now? So getting a job here might not be as difficult as getting a job far in Nigeria based on the population.
I just Googled now, Libya unemployment rate, it's 9.30%, while Nigeria is 33.3%.
You see now? You see? And based on that analysis you just gave me, the unemployment rate in Libya that is 9.4, I'm so sure 50% of that 9.4, 50% would be voluntary unemployment. Yeah. And you might not even see voluntary unemployment. There's no voluntary unemployment in Nigeria. Everybody wants to get engaged because without payment, there's no government benefits. There's no any social benefit from government. So for you to consume, you have to work, you have to earn. Mm. Do you see the difference now? Yeah. Are you convinced now?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, we go on.
D. Discuss whether a national
minimum wage. Yes, I said national minimum wage means it could reduce poverty if it is set above the equilibrium wage rate. Equilibrium wage rate is that wage that that wage rate employers are willing to pay employees and employees are willing to accept. That is equilibrium wage rate. So if government is setting the wage rate above the equilibrium wage rate, then it makes sense. Mm. Do you get the point here? Yeah. There's equilibrium wage rate, which means the demand for labor and the supply of labor agrees to pay such wage rate. Mm-hmm. That is equilibrium wage rate. If minimum wage rate has to, to become of benefit to employees, it has to be set above the equilibrium wage rate. Okay. So if it is set above equilibrium wage rate, it means one, the purchasing power of low-income earners will rise. Okay. If it's set above minimum equilibrium wage rate, it means people that are earning equilibrium wage rate are getting lower before, are getting low pay. So now they are getting more. That means their disposable income will increase. They will have more power to buy more. Their purchasing power would increase. So because their purchasing power will increase, that might take them away from poverty. Do you get the point? Two, It may reduce absolute poverty because lower paid workers may have access to basic needs. So if it is set above equilibrium wage rate, it means low income earners would have accessibility to basic needs like food, clothing, and shelter. Poverty would fall. Absolute poverty would reduce. 3, may raise employment as people may be motivated to work due to higher wages. Do you get the point here?
Yeah.
People will start working because the wage rate is high. And they are in poverty because they are not working. Right now, poverty, it will be elevated. Do you get it? Are you convinced? Are you?
I am.
Okay, great.
We go for 3.
Question 2 done.
There is a small proportion of large firms in Africa than in Asia. The 2 African countries with the largest firms are Nigeria and South Africa.
My country, okay.
Super proud.
Yeah, sure.
These 2 countries' firms have more capital goods than most other African countries' firms. Firms in South Africa produce a range of products, including gold and petrochemicals. In recent years, a number of African firms have developed into multinational companies, producing mainly in other African countries. A, define a capital good.
So when you talk about capital goods, you're talking about goods that are used to produce other goods.
Goods that are used to produce other goods.
These are capital goods. Example, what? You need an example?
Why not?
Okay. Example is machines.
Okay.
Machines. You use machines to produce goods, yes or no?
Of course.
That's capital
Even
goods.
wood.
Yeah.
Even wood.
This laptop is a capital good.
It's used to. Got it.
Okay.
A, explain 2 challenges facing small firms.
When you say a small firm, the challenges a small firm could face are 1, financial lack of finance.
Yeah.
Small firms are not attractive to investors. Banks do not want to borrow them money. They find it difficult to source for finance because banks see them as high risk. They might not be able to pay back. Number 1. Small firms also they are unable to exploit economies of scale because their output is low, so they cannot exploit economies of scale. Do you get the point here?
Yeah.
So that means they would be witnessing higher average costs.
Even failure, it's one of the challenges. Not only small firms face.
Failure. Well, failure in which aspects? In which regards?
Well, it's a challenge. It is still a challenge. And not only for the small firms.
Yeah, well,
the big firms.
Yeah. Any business could fail.
Any business, yeah. So it's a challenge.
It's a challenge, but not for small firms. Well, yeah, the fear for failure, right? The fear for failure. Yeah. Failure, yeah, they could fail. But most small businesses could.
Especially if they were like at their beginnings and their firm.
They are unable to survive it.
Yeah, they'll be unable to survive.
Yeah, if they are unable to survive, then they failed. Yeah. Failure, yes. Failure is one of those things they could face.
Okay, we go for C. Analyze using demand and supply diagram how rise income may affect the market for gold. So
here, I draw the graph already. So a rise in income would shift the demand curve rightward from D1 to D2. As a result, the quantity demanded will increase from Q1 to Q2, bringing the price of the product to rise from P1 to P2. Then we're going to have a new equilibrium at P2. Clear?
Very clear. B, discuss whether or not MNCs increase production and productivity in their host country.
Yeah. If MNCs are set up here, multinationals company coming here, they said we should explain if they're going to increase output here, or production here, and productivity here. I said yes. Why? 1, if MNCs are setting up here, they are setting up here because they have raw materials available here. Like British Petroleum is here. So why is British Petroleum here? British Petroleum is here in Libya because there's petrol in Libya. So it means British Petroleum would be able to deal with domestic countries or domestic firms that are exploring oil in Libya. So that the first one is they may create demand for raw materials from domestic firms. That is production. Yes or no? 2, they may bring new technology into the country. Take care. They may bring new technology into the country, which is productivity. 3, they may train domestic workers. When they are able to train domestic workers, productivity also increases, labor productivity. And 4, they may pay high wages, which motivate workers. Is it clear? Any question about that?
No.
Done. That's question 3. We go to question 4, which is the last one.
Economists are uncertain about the future United States, U.S. macroeconomics performance. For instance, in recent years, U.S. employment has fallen while the deficit in the current account of the balance of payments has fluctuated. Whether it is current account deficit will rise or fall in the future may be affected by proposed tax cuts. Some economists suggest that U.S. government should not be concerned about the country's current account deficit. A defined macroeconomy.
So we're talking about macroeconomics. We're talking about the study of the economy as a whole, the study of the whole economy. That is macro. But when you're studying individual firms, the demand for each firms or the demand in an economy or for consumers or firms, it is micro. All right.
B explain two consequences to firms of unemployment.
When there's unemployment in an economy, demand in such economy would fall. And when demand falls, revenue would fall. Yes or no? 2, output will become lower. Firms will not be producing more because there's no demand for. And as a result of lower output, they won't be able to exploit economies of scale because they won't be producing at a large scale, on a large scale. And not producing on a large scale would not allow you to enjoy economies of scale. So they might be witnessing higher average cost. Clear?
See, unlike how tax cuts could increase exports.
Tax cuts, okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Cuts could increase exports.
Yeah. When there's tax cuts, so we could talk about indirect taxes. We could talk about income taxes. So let's talk about income taxes. If income taxes are reduced, that is cut. If they are reduced, workers become more motivated, well-motivated workers. They become more motivated. So it increases productivity for firms. And if productivity increases for firms, output will increase for firms. As output increases for firms, they will be able to do more exports at a lower price. And that makes them to become internationally competitive.
Very clear?
Yeah.
We go for D. Discuss whether or not a current account deficit means balance of any firms and economy.
When we talk about current account deficit, it means that a country is doing more of imports than exports. That is what current account deficit is. I think that is clear. Great. And okay, that's about that. Then, how does it, if with a current account deficit, it harms the economy? Why? Number 1, it harms the economy because income and demand is leaving the economy. I just said deficit is as a result of more imports than exports. It means we are demanding more of foreign products. Yes or no? So our money is going out of our country, which is not good. So income is going out of this country. The money we are making, we are spending it immediately. And demand is leaving this country. So this country, we are not having demand in this country. Rather, we're getting more supplies. It's harmful to the economy, to the country. 2, it could reduce employment opportunities for firms. Why? Because firms and consumers depend mostly on foreign products. So we are not producing anything here. So because we are not producing, so firms do not need to employ workers. So it could lead to unemployment. Is it clear? It may discourage other countries from borrowing us money or even investing in this country. Our country is in current account deficit. It means we are not doing well. It won't be attractive for countries to invest here or even to borrow us money. Is it clear? I think that's the end of question 4 and paper 2, 2020.